The courtroom camera caught the exact moment arrogance met reality. Karen Westfield, 42, with neatly highlighted blonde hair and a designer pantsuit that practically shouted, "I want to speak to your manager," sat in the plaintiff's chair, wearing a level of confidence only found in someone who had never dealt with real consequences. Her manicured finger tapped the armrest as she waited for Judge Judy to begin, unaware that the manila folder on the judge's desk held evidence that would destroy her entire case in under 10 seconds. What unfolded over the next 17 minutes became one of the most satisfying evidence reveals in courtroom TV history, shared more than 15 million times, and turning Karen Westfield from a confident plaintiff into one of the most despised frauds in America. Karen Westfield was not just having a bad day. She had turned filing lawsuits into a profitable routine. Over the past 5 years, she had filed 23 lawsuits against small businesses in her community, always using the same strategy. She would enter a store or restaurant, cause a scene, claim discrimination or mistreatment, and then sue for emotional distress. Many small business owners, afraid of legal costs and negative publicity, would settle quickly just to make her go away. Karen had mastered being believable enough, sympathetic enough, and forceful enough to make fighting back seem more costly than paying her. She believed she had found a clever system to make easy money from people too scared or financially limited to challenge her lies. That morning, she entered Judge Judy's courtroom with the same self-assured swagger she had carried into 23 previous cases. She hadn't prepared because her claims were legitimate, but because she saw the chance for something bigger than a quiet settlement. National exposure. She imagined going viral as the woman who stood up to a discriminatory baker, followed by interviews, social media attention, maybe even a book deal. She had even posted on Facebook the night before, bragging that she was about to teach a TV judge a lesson and get paid for it. Her confidence was absolute because she had never once been caught lying. No judge had ever examined her claims deeply. No one had ever challenged her story. Across from her sat Marcus Chin, a 47-year-old baker who looked exhausted. Marcus had immigrated to America 15 years earlier with nothing but a dream and a family recipe for exceptional chocolate cake. He had worked 3 jobs to save enough to open a small bakery in a modest strip mall. For 12 years, his bakery had been his pride. He employed 6 local workers, knew his regular customers by name, and held a perfect 5-star rating. His bakery was more than a business. It was his contribution to the community and his legacy for his children. Everything changed 47 days earlier when Karen walked into his shop and decided he would be her next target. Marcus arrived in court with a folder full of records, security footage, transcripts, and character statements from loyal customers. His hands shook as he glanced at Karen, who was fixing her makeup and smiling at the cameras. He had spent $7,000 on legal fees to get to this hearing, money borrowed from his elderly parents. His wife had cried nightly, fearing they would lose everything. His employees were afraid of losing their jobs. His children had been bullied because Karen's online reviews had painted him as a racist. Everything he had built was endangered while Karen treated the case like a television audition. Judge Judy reviewed her notes one final time. Neither Karen's smugness nor Marcus's fear prepared them for what was about to happen. Judge Judy's voice cut through the room. "Ms. Westfield, you are suing Mr. Chin for $5,000. Explain why we are here." It was a simple question, but experienced viewers knew simplicity was Judge Judy's first step in exposing dishonesty. She was already watching Karen's posture and expression for signs of deceit. Karen took a dramatic breath and began her rehearsed speech. "Your Honor, I have never been so humiliated and discriminated against in my entire life. On October 15th, I walked into Mr. Chin's bakery, at around 6:30 in the evening, because I wanted to buy a birthday cake for my elderly mother who was turning 75. It was meant to be a special day, a celebration of her life. and I wanted to surprise her with something beautiful from a local business, instead of going to a chain store. She paused, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue she had prepared in her jacket pocket. But the moment I walked through that door, Mr. Chen looked at me with such hatred and disgust that I immediately felt uncomfortable. I tried to ignore it and explain the type of cake I wanted, something elegant and simple, nothing complicated. But he refused to help me. He said he was too busy, even though no other customers were in the store. When I asked why he couldn't assist me, he said, "People like you always cause problems, and I don't want your business here." The courtroom audience murmured with concern, just as Karen had expected. She was hitting every emotional cue, playing the victim with practiced precision. Judge Judy's expression stayed neutral, but her fingers stopped tapping on the desk. A sign something about the story didn't fit. "Continue," she said, giving Karen enough space to keep talking. Karen's voice grew more emotional as she pushed toward her climax. "I was shocked, Your Honor. I asked him what he meant by people like me, and he just stared with contempt and told me to leave. I tried to explain that I just wanted a cake for my mother's birthday, but he raised his voice and said he'd call the police if I didn't leave. I have never been treated so poorly in my life." The discrimination was obvious. The hatred in his eyes was unmistakable. I left the bakery in tears, had to explain to my mother why I arrived without a cake, and I've suffered emotional distress ever since. I can't sleep. I have anxiety whenever I think about it. $5,000 won't erase the trauma, but it's the principle. People like Mr. Chen need to learn they can't treat customers this way. Judge Judy turned to Marcus, whose face had gone pale during Karen's testimony. "Mr. Chen, your response?" Marcus cleared his throat, his accent slightly thicker from stress. "Your Honor, none of that is true." "None of it. Ms. Westfield did come to my bakery on October 15th, but nothing happened the way she claims. She arrived at 7:56 in the evening. My bakery closes at 8 hours. I was cleaning up and had already sent my employees home. I greeted her and asked how I could help. She said she wanted a custom birthday cake, something very specific with special decorations and writing. I explained that custom cakes need at least 24 hours notice. I offered to make it for the next day or showed her the pre-made cakes available immediately, but she became very angry. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. "Define very angry, Mr. Chen." Marcus swallowed. "She started yelling at me, calling me lazy and incompetent. She said I could make the cake right then if I wanted to, and that I was just being difficult because I didn't like her. I stayed calm. I explained again that custom cakes can't be made in 4 minutes before closing. I offered alternatives, but she refused. Then she took out her phone and started recording me without permission, walking around and accusing me of discrimination. I asked her to leave because we were closing. That's when she became hostile. She said terrible things to me about where I come from, my accent, immigrants taking jobs. I have it all on security cameras, Your Honor. Every word, every moment." The courtroom camera caught the exact moment arrogance ran into its match. Karen Westfield, 42, with perfectly highlighted blonde hair and a designer pantsuit that practically shouted, "Ask to speak to the manager," sat in the plaintiff's chair with the smug assurance of someone who'd never faced real consequences. Her manicured finger tapped the armrest as she waited for Judge Judy. Unaware, the manila folder on the judge's desk held evidence that would obliterate her case in under 10 seconds. What followed over the next 17 minutes became one of the most satisfying evidence reveals in courtroom television history, shared millions of times and turning Karen from a confident plaintiff into a reviled fraud artist. Before we get into the takedown, smash that like button if you love seeing entitled people get their comeuppance, and hit subscribe, because what Judge Judy pulls from that folder will be the most satisfying thing you see all week. The look on Karen's face when she realizes she's been caught is priceless. You won't want to miss a second of this. Karen Westfield wasn't merely having a bad day. She'd made a business of filing lawsuits, 23 over 5 years, targeting small businesses with the same playbook. Stage a scene, claim discrimination or terrible service, then sue for emotional distress. Terrified of legal fees and publicity, most owners settled for a few thousand to make her go away. Karen had honed being believable enough, sympathetic enough, aggressive enough to make defending a case look costlier than settling. She thought herself clever. Someone who'd gamed the system for easy money off people too scared or broke to fight. That morning, she entered Judge Judy's courtroom with the same swagger she'd used in her previous cases. She'd spent weeks preparing, not because her claim had merit, but because national television promised something bigger than a quiet settlement: exposure. She pictured herself viral as the brave woman who stood up to a discriminatory baker. Interviews, followers, maybe a book. She'd even posted on Facebook the night before, bragging she was about to school a TV judge. Her confidence was unshakable. In 23 lawsuits, she'd never been caught, never faced a judge who dug deeper than her tears, never met someone who actually investigated. Sitting across her was Marcus Chin, 47, a baker who looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. He'd immigrated to America 15 years earlier with a family chocolate cake recipe and a dream. He'd worked 3 jobs to open a small bakery in a modest strip mall. For 12 years it had been his pride. He employed 6 neighborhood residents, knew regulars by name, and kept a 5-star rating across review sites. His bakery was his contribution to the community and the legacy he wanted for his children. But 47 days earlier, Karen had walked in and chosen him as her next target. Marcus clutched a folder of financial records, security footage transcripts, and character references from loyal customers. His hands trembled as he glanced at Karen, who checked her makeup and smiled for the cameras. He'd spent $7,000 on legal fees to get to this hearing, money he'd borrowed from elderly parents saving for retirement. His wife had cried nightly. His employees worried about their jobs. His children had been bullied after Karen's fake reviews painted him as a racist. Everything he'd built was at risk while Karen treated the courtroom like an audition. Judge Judy reviewed her notes one last time. Neither Karen's arrogance nor Marcus's fear prepared them for what came next. "Ms. Westfield, you're suing Mr. Chen for $5,000. Tell me why I'm here," she asked, a deceptively simple question. Karen launched into her practiced statement, tearful and theatrical. On October 15th, she'd gone to Mr. Chen's bakery at approximately 6:30 p.m. to buy a birthday cake for her 75-year-old mother. From the moment she entered, she claimed, Mr. Chin looked at her with contempt and refused to help, saying, "People like you always cause problems," and threatening to call the police if she didn't leave. She described leaving in tears, missing her mother's cake, and suffering ongoing emotional distress. The courtroom murmured exactly as Karen expected. She hit all the right emotional beats. Judge Judy's fingers had stopped tapping. Something about the story smelled wrong. She told Karen to continue, giving just enough rope. Karen ramped up the performance, insisting video couldn't capture what was in his heart, and that discrimination is about energy and attitude, not just words. She claimed witnesses would back up Mr. Chin's pattern of poor behavior. Judge Judy then turned to Marcus. He answered nervously that the account was false. Karen had arrived at 7:56 p.m., he said, and he was preparing to close at 8 hours with employees already sent home. He'd offered to make the custom cake the next day or sell a pre-made cake. Karen became angry, yelled, filmed him without permission, and accused him of discrimination. He insisted he'd remained calm, offered alternatives, and that the whole incident, every word, was captured on his security cameras. A flicker crossed Karen's confident face. Tiny, almost imperceptible. Judge Judy noticed. "Ms. Westfield, did you raise your voice in Mr. Chen's bakery?" she asked. Karen waved it off. She may have been upset, but it was because she'd been discriminated against. And as for cameras, she hadn't seen any. And even if they existed, they couldn't prove what was in his heart. Judge Judy's brow rose. So, you're saying that even if there is video footage, it won't matter because your feelings are what's important here. Karen sat up straighter and doubled down. Feelings mattered. Video couldn't disprove them. You can't prove what I felt, she said, a claim that hung in the air like a self-inflicted noose. Judge Judy closed the file and fixed Karen with her trademark stare. Ms. Westfield, let me make sure I understand. You want me to rule solely on your feelings, regardless of what evidence shows? Karen nodded emphatically, missing the trap. You're right about one thing, Judge Judy replied. I wasn't there on October 15th. I didn't see it. But before we continue, did you notice the security cameras in Mr. Chen's bakery? Color drained from Karen's face so fast it looked like someone had pulled a plug. Her smug expression vanished into panic. For a few moments, she couldn't get a word out. I didn't see any cameras, she stammered, voice losing its theatricality. Judge Judy leaned back, the gesture of someone who'd cornered their prey and intended to take time dismantling every lie. You're right, I can't read Mr. Chen's heart, she said. But I can read transcripts. I can review footage. I can see patterns. Is there anything about your testimony you'd like to revise before we continue? It was a last chance to salvage a shred of dignity. But Karen had spent 5 years lying successfully. She'd never been challenged with hard evidence. Arrogance had become habit. No, Your Honor, she said, chin lifted. I stand by every word. The audience held its breath as Judge Judy's smile widened, and the unraveling began. Even Marcus, who had been slumped in his chair and expecting the worst, sat up a little straighter, sensing that something had shifted in the atmosphere of the courtroom. Ms. Westfield, Judge Judy said slowly, emphasizing each word. You've used that phrase twice now. You can't prove it. You are relying entirely on the belief that without perfect evidence, your word weighs the same as Mr. Chen's, and that your tears and performance will carry you through. Is that an accurate summary of your strategy? Karen nodded eagerly, unaware she was being led into a trap. Yes, exactly. It's his word against mine, and I'm the one who was victimized. I'm the one who suffered. My feelings and my experience should matter more than whatever story he's prepared. She crossed her arms, convinced she had made an unbreakable point. The audience exchanged looks ranging from disbelief to anticipation. They could see what was coming, even if Karen could not. Judge Judy reached for the thick manila folder that had been on her desk since the start of the hearing. As she opened it, the sound of rustling paper was the only noise in the silent room. Ms. Westfield, thank you for being so confident. It makes what happens next much simpler. She lifted the first document for the cameras. This is a transcript from the security footage inside Mr. Chen's bakery from October 15th. Mr. Chen does not just have cameras, Ms. Westfield. He has cameras with audio, high-definition audio that recorded every word spoken that evening. Karen's face drained of color. Her hands began to shake. That's an invasion of privacy, she whispered. He can't just record people like that. Judge Judy's tone hardened. Actually, in this state, business owners are allowed to have audio-equipped security cameras, and Mr. Chen has posted signs informing customers of that. But let's stay focused on what the recordings captured. She began reading aloud. October 15th, 7:56 p.m. A customer enters. Mr. Chen says, "Good evening. Welcome to Chen's Bakery. How can I help you tonight?" Customer replies, "I need a birthday cake right now." Mr. Chen says, "We have several ready-made cakes, or I can prepare a custom order for tomorrow." Customer raises voice. "I don't want tomorrow. I want it now." What kind of bakery can't make a simple cake? Judge Judy paused. Does that sound familiar, Ms. Westfield? Karen opened her mouth, but nothing came out. That's out of context, she finally said. You're reading it wrong. He was being condescending. Judge Judy raised her hand. I'm not finished. Let me read what you said next. And the language is not pleasant. Her voice hardened. You people come to this country and think you can treat Americans like garbage. You probably don't even have a real license. Go back to where you came from and stop taking jobs from real Americans." Gasps filled the courtroom. Marcus looked down, reliving the humiliation. Karen's friend quietly gathered her things and tried to slip out. "Your Honor, I was upset," Karen said, panicked. "I didn't mean it. You can't use my words like that." "I absolutely can," Judge Judy replied. "They show you were the aggressor." She pulled another document. "After you left the bakery, you made a Facebook post. Do you remember it?" Karen shook her head violently. No, you can't show that. That's private." "You posted it publicly," Judge Judy said. She read, "Found another target. The Asian bakery owner probably won't fight back. Going to make this one pay big. These immigrants are so easy because they're scared of lawyers. I'll have a check by next week." The room erupted. Marcus began to cry. Finally understood. "That was a joke," Karen cried. "It was a joke between friends." Judge Judy slammed her hand down. "A joke. Let's look at something else." She lifted another stack of papers. "These are records of 23 lawsuits you've filed against small businesses in the last 5 years. 23. Karen was now openly sobbing, mascara streaking down her face. "Additionally, for the emotional distress you caused him, for the damage to his business reputation, and for the harm you inflicted on his family, you will pay an additional $5,000 in compensatory damages." Karen's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "Your Honor, I don't have that kind of money. I can't pay $12,000. That's not fair." The irony of Karen, who had extorted thousands from small business owners, now claiming that justice was unfair, was obvious to everyone. Judge Judy's expression remained cold. "Not fair, Ms. Westfield? You know what isn't fair? Targeting hard-working immigrants because you think they're easy victims. Ruining someone's reputation with lies. Using the legal system as a weapon. You will pay Mr. Chen every cent, even if you have to sell everything you own," she continued. "Furthermore, I am awarding Mr. Chen an additional $3,000 in punitive damages, bringing your total to $15,000. And before you consider bankruptcy or attempting to avoid payment, I am forwarding all of this evidence to the district attorney. The fraud, the witness tampering, the pattern of targeting vulnerable people, these are serious crimes. You may face charges that carry prison time." Karen's face went completely pale. "Prison?" she whispered. "You can't send me to prison. I have a family. I have a life. You should have considered that before destroying other people's families." Judge Judy replied, "Mr. Chen's dream nearly died because of you. His children suffered. His parents lost their savings. Did you think of your life when you instructed witnesses to lie? Did you think of your family when you posted about targeting immigrant-owned businesses?" Judge Judy closed the folder. "This evidence will be with the district attorney by tomorrow morning. You should hire a criminal defense attorney, and you should begin figuring out how to repay not just Mr. Chen, but all of the other victims you defrauded." The gavel struck, final and absolute. Karen sat frozen until security helped her stand, her legs too weak to support her. As she was escorted out, the audience didn't hide their disgust. Her friend had already disappeared. In the hallway, still on camera, Karen collapsed against the wall, sobbing, while officers stood nearby. The confident woman who entered expecting a victory now faced ruin. Back inside, Marcus was surrounded by supporters. Judge Judy stepped down and spoke quietly to him. "You did the right thing. You may have protected many others. I hope you can rebuild." Marcus bowed, tears streaming. "Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for believing me." The aftermath spread quickly online. Clips of Karen saying, "You can't prove it," followed by Judge Judy revealing the evidence, went viral. The hashtag, #HowYouCan'tProveIt, trended worldwide. Karen's shocked face became a meme. When you lie on your resume, and they actually check. But the consequences extended beyond social media. The district attorney opened an investigation and contacted all 23 businesses Karen had sued. 12 pressed charges. 5 more filed a class action suit. Her husband filed for divorce and publicly condemned her actions. Local news ran interviews with her victims. The Korean dry cleaner who paid money he couldn't afford, the Mexican restaurant owner whose reputation was nearly destroyed. Each story revealed Karen as a calculated predator. Her social media posts were archived and circulated widely. Meanwhile, Marcus's bakery became a symbol of resilience. Crowds lined up to support him. A news segment featured his story. Within a month, he had repaid his parents and hired more staff. The community rallied behind him. The message was clear. Arrogance has consequences. Lies collapse when confronted with evidence, and justice can still protect the innocent. Karen had believed her performance would win again, but she forgot one thing. Some people still care about the truth.